Hello world, I'm Dev Chaos, and I just wanted to run through the Eco Breeds package with you real quick. When you first get your package, you res it out and it will give you a folder that will be delivered into your inventory that contains both of these objects as well as an information note card that has some basic information as well as some useful scripts at the bottom that you can transfer into your inventory. The auto params and touch params scripts are useful for getting skin and animation parameters so that you can compile these features and methods within the web server to define different prim animations and other skins. You can use third-party scripts for this, but the built-in method is a lot more fluid and you have a lot more control remotely over the web server to make changes to these skins and prim animations as well as add to it at any time for existing breeds. And then you have extension scripts which you can use to author additional changes and extend the functionality of the breeds and action objects. And there's also an API that you can use, which all of this information you can find here under API and extensions under the creating extensions section for adding the functionality, or the API section where it tells you about the API itself and what you can do with it. A brief summary of what the API can do is allows you to view all the data related to your breeds, and as well as making changes to that data, rebuilding, setting the skins for an entire breed, deleting records, renaming the breed, the family, the species, and you can do this for all of your individual customers as well as across the board for all of your breeds grid-wide. Now, another thing that I'd like to point out is this doesn't have to be necessarily a website. You could use this information in Second Life scripts to send queries back and forth. They accept basic get or put information, so you can send the data however you like, whatever language is comfortable with you. You can write it in Java and make phone apps for the Android, or Objective-C for the iPhones. You can do social websites, marketplaces, or just simple profile sites, or just maybe make a back end. I designed my section of the website of the My Eco Breeds. This was all designed using the Eco API, where it gives me all the information of all the breeds I've created. Might want to ignore because I've been doing a lot of testing and growing a lot of corn, and as well as the species, where you can set the individual skins and the animations for those breeds, as well as define different parameters. And briefly, let's go through the individual settings here. This is your breed object. This is the animal or species that you're going to be creating, contains these scripts. There's no scripts in any other prims within this object. It's all in the main root prim. The only one that'll be modifiable by you is the breed setting script, which contains a variety of different settings to change different core functionalities. Briefly, there's some basic defaults that need to be defined. The most important ones are these here. Debug mode, when it's enabled to true, disables your ability to connect to a web server. So if you're doing a lot of testing, keep this on true, so that way you're not sending all those records like you saw on my corn. It doesn't necessarily need to be on the web server. Your own secure channel, change this. Make this your own channel and then put your name here. If you only have a first name in Second Life, just add resident to the end as your last name. Auto-activate could also be defined as whether or not it's a parent breed. If it's an object that you're selling, you set it to true. And what happens is while it is true, you have the ability to, every time you reset a script or res it from your inventory, or otherwise take it, drop it, or sell it to somebody else, it recompiles. But after that next owner recompiles it for the very first time, meaning it'll reset all the values back, all the timers back to 0. It'll start at age, the age that you set it at. It'll start at the first growth stage. It'll have the starting hunger, all the timers for breeding and hunger and lifespan and everything reset. Your skins will be reapplied. It'll give a fresh, new skin based on the parameters that you set here in the skin section, and then it will, for subsequent owners, if they were to resell or to take or to rebuild their pet, it would remain at the same exact time, and all the values, the skins, the name of the object will all remain the same and be where they where they were at their last known time. So if you set this to false, that's for breed objects such as child objects. If you are going to have children, you would set that to false. You would insert this into there. So anytime this is inserted into your action object to be resed and authenticated, this must be set to false, so that it knows to authenticate it based on the parameters that are given to it. If it's rebuilt to be an existing breed, it will know based on the channel, your name, and this being false, as well as the parameters sent to it from the action object, that it will need to rebuild the object that was queried. If it's a child object, it'll take the genetic string of both of its parents and combine that with the available skins that it has to it based on the parents' skins, whether they're dormant or active skins. It will apply that skin set to the child breed. Others are more simple, like the sit position, the text color, the sound volume, and another value here called undefined value. If you send an expression through that has not been previously defined, it'll come out with, it'll say this, and you can make it none or 0 or whatever, however you want it to show up. Briefly, the name generator, it takes from the prefix, middle, and suffix lists, and it chooses a random letter, a random middle, and a random suffix. If it's gender specific, it'll choose a female suffix for if it's a female, or a male if it's a male. You can make it so that it sets the object's name or the description, meaning this field right here. It'll either set this or this to the new object's name if you wanted to. This is completely optional. 0 means it doesn't do anything with the name other than store it in values. There's other ways you can handle the object's name, such as if you were to just take from here and add within the action class list here the simple expression my name, which is defined on the expression section of the website. If you come into expressions, anything that's wrapped in parentheses, that's an expression. And what it does is it replaces this string with its appropriate value, and you have all these options here to choose from, as well as customizable user-defined expressions such as the skin category. So if you have a type of fur, eyes, tail, it will take the category and display it as what the name of the skin is applied to it. Okay. Additionally, you could set properties such as happiness and display that information live over in text, or in message, if you were to instant message or say in local chat or put it in a menu or in a variety of other methods, you'll be able to use your user-defined expressions or other types of expressions that you see here on this list. Now to get back to sorry about that. Now to get back to the breeds information here, these are your movement options to define how fast or how frequent the movements occur. You have a variety of different movements and different types, such as walking or swimming and on water, floating or flying in the air, hovering. You have these different behaviors which can be more closely defined using these values here. Your lifespan determines the age that it grows to. You can define how long a year is, what age it starts at. It doesn't have to have an age. You can turn this on or off. There's also an odds filter that determines whether it's more or less likely to die within its lifespan. So if you had it to 10 to 20, it would try to, it could die anywhere between 10 to 20 years old. The higher the odds are, the more likely it'll reach the maximum age. Now at growth stages, it actually resizes the entire object. You have in this case a 15 prim object. When you have growth stages, every cycle it will grow more and more, just like this. Okay, and for each cycle, let's say if I had 10 growth stages, the growth scale itself would multiply all of the prims, their position and their scale, by this number. So this means it would increase its size by 5% 10 times throughout its life every minute, because the growth time is in minutes. So you could set the time of each cycle here, and then again the odds of skipping a growth stage, the higher the number is, the more likely it will skip a growth stage. A lot of these values can actually be changed dynamically within the action class list by using a method called val, V-A-L. In here I can show you just briefly under let's see, manipulation. Val allows you to change the different hard-coded values, such as the breed timer. So you can actually disable breeding based on happiness in this example. There are a lot of these different values that you can change. They're all listed here under the attributes for value. And these would be all the different values that you can change dynamically during event flow. Let's get on to hunger, which I'll be able to describe more in the food tutorial. It basically gives you a time and odds of eating, how much you are likely to eat during that time period, how many food units you'll consume for every cycle, as well as a death odds, the odds of death when you are below the minimum threshold of 10% hunger. You also have the ability to set what the starting hunger is when they're born, and how much hunger is lost each cycle, based on it getting more and more hungry. So it will still lose, in this case, 5% of its hunger every cycle, whether it's hungry or not. So the food value intake should increase greater than 5 under this scenario. Breeding, I will get into quite a bit more in another tutorial. You have the breed timer, which is the time in minutes it will look for a mate and attempt to breed. And then values based on whether you want it to be asexual, meaning more to enable genders, or for it to all be a genderless breed. You can set the odds of there being a female within the litter. The 0 would mean it's always a female. Less than 0 would make males rare. 1 would be like a 50-50, which is what the default is. Greater than 1 would make females rare. You can also require partners or not. If they don't require partners, they'll breed with any available object. That's depending on if they have genders or not. There's the unique partner, which disables incest or breeding among siblings and parents, as well as a monogamy filter to a true would force them to keep their partner throughout their lifespan. Additionally, you have some skin values, which gives you the ability to set the skins on or off. If you, like for example, I just did a tutorial on how to grow corn. Well, the corn is always going to start off with a simple texture, but as it grows, it changes its texture to the mature plant with the corn on the stalk, or it could turn brown and die. This here, let's say for this dog, if we wanted to have a couple different skins, such as you wanted to always apply eyes separately than the rest of the body, and ears and the snout separately than the rest of the body, maybe give it a unique collar. You would have each of those in their own category. So for the dog, when we first res and create the object, it will have when you set it up and give it a channel and enter your name, it'll be associated with you, and it'll come up under undefined, which you click in here and you can set the breed, the species name, which means all the dogs that you are ever creating, this is the species. You also have your skins here. You would put the name of the skin. So if it's a red fur, you put red here, fur here. You can set the generation and odds, which is this I explained in another tutorial as well. You get a lot of options as far as what type of skin you're trying to apply, whether it's the texture or the color, or let's see, animation. Here's the skin methods: the texture right here, the color, glow, shine, or changing a sculpt. And like I said, this will be covered in another tutorial, so look for that if you need help with setting up your skins or any other prim animations. Now, moving on to the action settings script, just briefly here, we want to make sure that the secure channel in both the breed settings and the action settings, they match. By default, it's -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would suggest changing that since it's the default for everybody. Now, you can set the text color that appears here, and that text is defined right here under this section. You have a header and a footer, as well as section. These 5 values here, which all appear in that order as top and the middle and then the bottom, where you can add or change the value to a message. So let's say if we wanted to say food remaining, and you just say value. Oops. Food remaining value, and that would say, based on how much food is in here, if there's 50 units left, it'll say food remaining 50. If I say you can also put static messages like I did here, where it doesn't involve having any text. But if you wanted to do something where it has multiple lines, just insert this here forwards, well, that's /n for next line. But you can do this in any kind of format you like. So if you wanted to say iRes value children. This if 5 children were resed from this action object, it would then say I resed 5 children. So you could format this any way you like. Let's move on to the rebuilding and the other values. Rebuilding allows you to rebuild lost or missing breeds, as well as if you decide you want to hide the breeds during event flow, and you can always let the owner touch to rebuild their breeds. The touch, if you set this here to 0, that means as soon as you touch it, it will bring up a menu of all of the breeds that this person owns that are related to this species, based on the channel and the owner's name. If you have it like I do right now to 2, that means they have to touch and hold for 2 seconds to bring up that menu. Rebuilding any object means that if this is set to true, any object that's in here will be considered a breed object. If you want to also have other residuals from this for any reason at all, you would just set this to false and then define the name of the breed here. This is also very helpful if you have no copy items and you just want to put no copy breeds within the contents and allow it to just res what it has available. It also gives you options to change messages and buttons that are received when you're selecting it. These are dialog options. Very similarly to rebuild, you have breed res any object and the object name. If you just wanted to have an action object that was a food source and not a breeding or a rebuilding source, you just keep this to false and this to blank, just as this value is. But in actuality, this one object can allow rebuilding, breeding, food, and a variety of actions such as menus and movement and other functionalities. This would define the actions that your breed objects will have. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to create individualized objects, such as if you wanted to create a toy with limited functionality that doesn't include it eating and moving around or going home or sleeping or doing a number of things such as prim animations or other avatar interactions. It can be very briefly defined here, and it doesn't have to include any of these other things. However, like I said, it can if you wanted to. You also have the ability, I skipped off on this and I shouldn't have, I'm sorry. This, which I did go into more detail in another tutorial about how to breed based on the this will res at a certain distance around the object. So when you do have a new child born, if let's say you have 6 of them res at the same time, it'll neatly or in an organized way res them facing outwards around the center of your action object. This also allows you to set whether this object dies when the maximum amount has been resed, and you define how many you want it to res from here. -1 says you can breed an unlimited number of children, as well as you can set this to make it so that it's only one family is allowed to produce offspring at this action object. Okay, the food itself, this is where you would set food levels and values. The levels indicate how many food units are within the object. It decreases as the food is consumed. -1 would be an infinite food source, and let's say you give it 100 to start. You can, for every unit that's consumed, it's multiplied by the value, which is what increases the food hunger percent of the breed object individually. So if you have 50% hunger and you have these set at 5% for every unit, this means if it eats 10 units, that would be 50%. It would fill the breed object up to 100. And I apologize for the language. Hunger percent at 100 means that it's not hungry at all. 0 is starving. It might sound like it's backwards, but consider it, instead of hunger, consider it health, which is less depreciative. It means a positive. So 100% means it's good. 0 means that it's very hungry. And then at the same way that this will die after the maximum number have been bred, this will allow you to kill the food object automatically when all the food is consumed. Whether or not you want to set that is up to you. And I'll get into how to set up a more advanced action class list in other tutorials, such as the one that I actually just made, which was this how to grow corn and how to as a food source for my goats here. How to water the ground and let the corn grow. And right now it's all dead because I've let it sit for over an hour, and I gave them a maximum lifespan of 20. This is just supposed to be a brief tutorial. I went a little long with it all, but that'll give you a good idea as to what you're supposed to do when you first get your package. Now, if there's anything else I wanted to add to this, no, that's about it. In fact, I do want to mention that when you do set up the movement for your object, which I will get into a lot more detail, when you do set it up, you need to go into here and make sure that when you set this object to 0 rotation, that it's facing east and pointing upwards. So it's standing upright and it's facing east, and I can tell that it's east because the way my camera is rotated, it's facing east. That's how the code is set to move and res objects, is when this is always at a 0 rotation at this particular trajectory, when it's facing this way. That's probably one of the more important lessons, is to know that when you res your breed out and you create your object, that the main prim itself, whether you use an invisible prim or you're using a sculpted prim, that you make sure that when you bring it in world, that it has this appropriate direction. Otherwise, you'll have breed objects that are moving around kind of like this, and we don't want that. Alright folks, let me get off here, and we're going to get into some more details in the next tutorial.